topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaksan, and those of you who follow the show know that I have a website if you're interested in looking at the trainings I offer, coaching and training and helping people identify patterns of bias, learning how to step out of them and cultivate healthier, happier ones that create more belonging and inclusion. So I'll just name that. Its website is knowwhatyouwantcoaching.wordpress.com. And next to me is Gloria Partida. Gloria, thank you so much for being here. She's a steadfast supporter, a tremendous contributor to our community. And I see that we have two more people joining us now. We're going to have a panel, and let's bring in Sandy and Pat. And then I'll hi Sandy, hi Pat. Thanks for being here.
Great to be with you. Hi.
And I don't know if you have met Gloria before.
We have, at a demonstration, in fact.
Well, that fits. I just want to let listeners and viewers know that the focus of this show is basically social activism, how the guests will share how they have helped manifest social change, social justice, and how all of you who are guests today live it, social change in everyday life. And it's such a good time for us to hear, and we need inspiration with all the challenges happening in the world, which I won't even name it right now because I want to hear your voices more first. But let me start with Gloria, who's just steadfast and often a guest to help me keep things in perspective and share her expertise. So Gloria, among other things, is a parent, and she's a disability rights advocate, has had a huge impact on our schools, including people with disabilities along the spectrum, the founder and executive director of the Phoenix Coalition, which has an amazing mission of addressing hatred and building community to come together to, with love, decrease violence, and Gloria, when I hand it over to you, I would love you to state the mission because I'm not articulating it very well. And she's also was reelected to the city council, very involved in the community, and runs a business on the side with her son. So Gloria, can you add more about your introduction that you'd like people to hear about?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me again. I always enjoy having these conversations. I think they're important ones to have. So yes, the Davis Phoenix Coalition is the nonprofit that I run, and we try to address intolerance in the community with the goal of preventing hate-motivated incidents and particularly violence. And so it's a long on-ramp. Actually, it's not. It's a pretty short on-ramp, I should say, to where things become violent for folks. I think it's shorter than people understand. And so anything that you can do upstream to prevent hate-motivated incidents, I think it's everybody's mission to do that. So that, that's what we do. And there's a number of different ways that we try to address that. We try to work with young children on anti-bullying efforts. We try to, host a lot of cultural events and forums and films so that people can learn about each other. We always say that if you know someone, it's really hard for you to dehumanize them and impose violence on them. That is basically our mission.
Thank you. Yes. So we have Pat Humphreys and Sandy O of Emma's Revolution, and you're like a duo known for singing. Like, I actually want to go back to, I want to read the right words because I don't want to minimize the influences you two have had as an award-winning activist music duo. And again, known as Emma's Revolution, and known for your fearless, truth-telling lyrics and harmonies. And I think it's very interesting that for folks to know that you've sung for His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and you've shared performance stages with Pete Seeger, Holly Near, Joan Baez, Amy Goodman, Indigo Girls, Jane Fonda, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend William Barber, and Bill McKibben, and I'm sure many more. And currently, there's a documentary being made about your legendary contributions by the very accomplished filmmaker, Tom Weidlinger. Let me see if did I pronounce his name correctly? So we want to hear about you. We know you have an upcoming event that I want you to talk about. Why don't you mention that right now, because we're going to be bringing Dr. Sarah Rubelt on next, and I know that there's someone else trying to join this amazing panel.
Well, thank you. We're very happy to be here. And thank you for that really beautiful introduction. We do need to correct the record that our song was sung for the Dalai Lama. And somebody at a show handed me a piece of paper saying, we sang your song for 500,000 people in a stadium. And we were like, really? Couldn't you have called us beforehand? Maybe we wanted to be there, And but we do have a very special event coming up at the Freight and Salvage in Berkeley on Wednesday, February 21st at 8 p.m. It's going to be live in person and also live streamed. And it's a concert that it's going to be filmed for the documentary that you mentioned that's being made about us. And it's going to feature a lot of our friends and musicians who we've worked with over the years. So we have folks coming in from the East Coast, we've got folks from the West Coast, and people like Holly Near is going to be on it from the Bay Area, and also a fantastic electric guitarist named Shelley Doty, wonderful drummer named David Rokeach from the Bay Area, and our friends coming in from the East Coast, Reggie Harris. I know you've had Reggie here on your show, Greg Greenway, Bev Grant, and all the information is on our website, emmasrevolution.com, and there's a page about February 21st and the film.
Yeah, that concert will be a bit of a retrospective of the last 20 plus years that Sandy and I have been writing songs and performing together. So we have some folks that we collaborated with in our very early days together, and also some folks that we worked with more recently. And all these different friends of ours will represent those various stages in our 20 plus years together.
I probably should have interrupted you, Pat, because there was a lot of static in your mic. I don't know if you can do anything about that.
If you want to, take us out for a minute while you have Dr. Rubelt come in, and we can troubleshoot that together.
Sure, because we don't want to miss your words, Pat.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, Dr. Rubelt.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
We really appreciate it. Let me just read your introduction for the listeners and viewers who might not have seen you in previous shows.
Thank you.
You, like Gloria, have been on a couple of times, and we know that you're going to also share how you help social justice manifest. But I just want to mention that you are a published multicultural family therapist, and that you've worked with refugees and immigrants from Iran, Afghanistan, Somalia, Bosnia, Vietnam, and elsewhere, and that you taught advanced intergenerational theories class and multicultural counseling in the doctoral MFT program at Alliance International University. And you have worked with families with the impacts of multi-generational trauma and are very tuned in to how decades of trauma affect Iranian and other families.
Mhm.
And
Thank-
you're so good at understanding and describing the painful realities of not only horrible experiences of being victims of wars and attacks, but also when bearing witness.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bahia. Thank you. And nice to see you, Gloria. I am honored to be here, especially in an effort of, honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What an amazing, amazing leader he continues to be for us. And during these times, I hear a lot of people wondering, where are our leaders today? You know, where are the Martin Luther King Jr.'s and Gandhi's and, people who we need today to help rescue us in this chaotic world we live in? And I'm a huge history buff, and I do feel like history is so important. And the more we look into how they set that example and how we can follow them today, it's like we kind of have those leaders even now to access. And these podcasts that you create, the opportunity to reflect, to observe, to brainstorm, I think it's so important. So very important. So my passion in multicultural education and therapy has been to build bridges. I often recognize in my line of work how there really are multiple realities that exist at one time, which is what social constructivist theory has taught us. But to see it in actual world, day in and day out, whether it's inside my therapy room, working with a family, as different individuals present their perspective. And my role becomes building bridges, creating consensus, trying to bring empathy and compassion into the room, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we have feelings and we have emotions and we can relate if we try. But what I'm seeing a lot in our society is that lack of effort and trying to understand, creating more and more misunderstandings and polarization that happens when people sort of present that framework of you're either with us or against us. It's either this or that, all or nothing, which is a
Mhm.
distortion. I mean, yes, there's
Well,
so much more.
oh yeah, thanks for yes, beginning it, and it's I'm glad you mentioned how people are looking for leaders, and that's why like I'm absolutely honored and delighted to have you and Gloria and Sandy and Pat and Sandy Holman hopefully will join us, and hopefully also Dr. Melissa Moreno, because you are leaders, you are doing it and you're making it you're inspiring and also doing the work and encouraging and modeling. And I think that is so what we need in our times. And let me just ask
Of course.
Gloria, what your how you want to start with how you manifest social justice. There's so many things that you do and so many ways you do it. Where would you like to share about that?
Yes. So it's been a really rough uh, few months, with the community. We're a small community and we have a lot of diversity in our community. And so it's been rough around the things that are happening abroad in Israel and Gaza, for instance. And so um, I'm glad to hear you talk about how people, are very binary in their thinking sometimes, and especially when it comes to something that is so personal and so deeply um, painful, and then you you do feel like either you're against us or you're for us, and there's no in between. And it's been really difficult to convey to people that that they are seen and heard in our community. And so we had, for instance, a group of people who wanted us to do a ceasefire resolution. And then last night at City Council, we had, a group of Jewish folks that came in and were so hurt by that resolution, when what we were trying to do is to, make a statement that we thought that violence should stop. And there's no good answer, and there's no good way to sort of step into that situation and come out of it where people are feeling offended. And so I wanted to say to people, I understand that you're in this community where our values are saying everyone belongs, and we Davis is for everyone, and all of these things that we say. And I understand how those aspirational sayings can feel very hollow when you are witnessing people uh, uh, saying terrible things to you, or you're watching on social media all of these trolls, and it does make you feel very isolated and very alone. And it does feel like it's not true that everyone belongs, and in fact it's not true that everyone belongs, because no matter how much we try to go to battle for social justice, it's just ongoing, and it's hard to tell people there are people in this community that do stand up for you and see you and honor you, and it's really hard to do that. But how I continue to do this is to continue to try to reach out. We are right now trying to lay out our plan for the year. Our organization's trying to lay out our plan for the year. And one of the things that we want to focus on is that this is an election year, and it's going to get worse, I feel, because people find, distractions to divide us and to take our minds off of what the real issues are. There's still poverty, there's still food insecurity, there's still, immigration issues. There are all of these real issues that affect the most vulnerable in our communities. And so as we're going through the election year, I want people to remember that it's not, not to get dragged into the agendas that are being created in the world. And that's our mission for the year. We're hoping that that we can, try to give people some hope and some, goodness throughout the year.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Welcome, Sandy Holman. Thank you so much for joining us.
I am so sorry. I'm honored to be here. Had some techie challenges, but it's nice to be with all of you. And hello to everyone.
Hello.
Gloria, we will respond to your thought, but let me just share with any viewers or listeners who don't know Sandy yet a little bit about Sandy. This Sandy, we have two Sandys. This is Sandy
Hi, Sandy.
Holman. So
Nice to meet
Sandy, I'm sorry, what?
I said nice to meet the other Sandy.
Sandy O from
Likewise,
Revolution.
hardly ever happens, right, Sandy?
So this Sandy, who just joined us, has been a social change agent for over 37 years. And she's the founder of the Culture Co-op, which stands for Caring, Optimistic, Open-Minded People, a consultant, a writer, an activist, a documentarian on the lives of marginalized people. And she always speaks from her heart, always emanates love. And I wanted to just mention the co-op promotes systemic change, inclusion, equity, cultural competency, diversity, literacy, equality, education for all. And some of the titles of her books, just you can see how powerful they are just by hearing the title. One is We All Have a Heritage. Another children's one is Grandma Says Our Hair Has Flair. And another one is called Grandpa Is Everything Black Bad. So there's a little snapshot of some of the work you've been doing for decades.
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I'm just coming in, and so I I assume that you were just wanting us to talk about social justice still, and how to be active with doing social justice kinds of acts. Is that correct, Bahia?
Yeah, and I can sort of or Gloria add anything, but I just want to mention it would be great to hear what you want to add to, like Sarah brought up the 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 trends in the poll to be polarized,
Yeah.
and Gloria added how because we're in election year, that's going to increase in the pressure on us to help, for Davis to help everyone feel like they belong when not everyone does belong, and how do we listen and validate everyone. So I don't know, Gloria, do you want to just sort of lead into what you were saying, and then we can have Sandy Holman add?
Sure. No, I was just saying that, our mission with the Phoenix Coalition this year, with it being an election year, is to remind people that, we are often distracted by, what the politicians and people are doing very actively to distract us from the real issues that are out there. And if we're all worried about trans people in bathrooms, then we're not looking at things like the fact that there's food insecurity and poverty, and people are still not being paid living wages, and there's not enough housing for folks, and those are the real issues that affect people and keep us in oppressed spaces. And if I think it's important for us to just keep reminding people that those are the real issues, and those are the things that we should be forcing on our electeds and people to step up and bring real social justice to bear.
Thank you, Gloria. Sandy, are you still here? Sandy Holman?
If I could just add something really quickly while we wait for Sandy, Gloria, I so appreciate your authentic observation of what real issues are and how honest we must be about acknowledging them, and how distractions do exist and contributes to the polarizations and so on. I think as leaders and as facilitators of understanding and hope, I see that role creating opportunities for voices to be heard. This is why I love what Bahia is doing, presenting, these voices, having an opportunity for these voices to be heard, because we do represent so many who are voiceless. And to do so, it adds acknowledgement. It does something for social change, because it has to, because you can't ignore forever. And even though voices are often, oppressed and pushed back, I think that the goal is not to give up and to continue. And here's Sandy. So I'm going to.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm really experiencing some technology challenges, but I want to concur with what I've heard thus far, and particularly hearing mostly what Gloria said. It's just right on point. So this is an unprecedented situation and year, and 2024 and 2025 are going to be pivotal in how we approach things as a community, as a country, as a world. I have no doubt that we're going to be seeing an uptick in every kind of thing that has challenged us, especially since COVID hit us and even before. And so what I like to say to everyone is that it's just really important to do a few key things as we kind of navigate what's going to be kind of perilous situations. And that's one is to equip yourself with knowledge and tools as best you can and to educate yourself on the issues. Groups like the Phoenix Coalition, the Culture Co-op, United in Unity, there's so many other ones that are out there that are doing great work, are great ways to kind of segue into educating yourself, finding out what some of the key issues are so that you could be prepared with the best tools to take action. Two, actually connecting with the group as a part of a mosaic so you're not alone. And this was actually really illustrated for me just even yesterday when I was at a local diner and we ran into some tremendous hate speech um, on at the moment, in that moment, and it was bad hate speech. Um, and for the first time in my 60 years of living, the people that that I was with, who happened to be white, actually sprung into action. It was the first time that I didn't have to address it myself directly, even though I would have liked them to have more of a plan as opposed to just responding. The act of love that happened in that space, and I was able to go join them and also address these three men who were extremely hateful. And we're going to be seeing more things like that. We already are. And again, for me, that wasn't anything new, but what was new is that allyship, being connected with a mosaic of people who stood with me in the heat of the moment at a time when it's actually can be very dangerous to yourself to do that, just edified me to the highest levels. So that ideal of connecting with other people and other groups that are doing work so you're not standing alone and you're acting in safety. And three, understanding that this is no longer sort of a, oh, I can do it or I cannot do it. Every single one of us has a responsibility at this point to do something, whether it's small, medium, or large. But we are responsible as citizens, as a human collective, as a loving force of impact for needed change to decide what we're going to do. Hopefully, again, be a part of a mosaic or a group or an organization or a community, um, to to do what we've decided we're going to do, and then to do it. So learning as much as you can, equipping yourself with tools, connecting with groups who are doing things. I know Phoenix Coalition is getting ready to have a peace vigil, which sounds lovely. I just saw on Facebook, which was awesome because in whatever way that we can communicate to people that we need to come together, it's important. And then I just want to say this, these are very, very, very stark times, but there are a lot of great and amazing good things that are going on too. And to kind of balance all of this out, we have to make sure we're diving into the pool of goodness and love and impact. Otherwise, this stuff will leave you hopeless. So, those are a few things that came to my mind today, and especially on the fresh heels of engaging with these three men with UC Davis shirts on, speaking vitriolic hate, um, being incredibly disgusting and despicable to the waitress and the other Latinx person in the room, and to all people of color and humanity in general. So, I'm hopeful. I'm very thankful for everyone who's here. And Bahia, I really want to thank you for, bringing space for these kinds of discussions.
Well, thank you so much, Sandy. And all of you are part of my mosaic. Like I wouldn't have a hope if it weren't for each of you. And I love you. Thank you for those points that you were just making, Sandy, because isolation is not going to work, and being alone or feeling powerless it's not going to help us individually, and certainly not anyone else. But the other night I had a great opportunity to be near Pat and Sandy, and I know I don't know if you care to share the activism you were doing that day, Sandy, but I do know that we shared a moment together where we were feeling discouraged, and Pat, you said something like, we'll get through it. It's going to change. Things will get better. And just hearing things like that once in a while, just like, I didn't say it at the time, but I just thought, oh, thank God, because these are people who have for decades been looking at struggles and oppression and fighting for rights and singing for rights and putting yourselves on the line. So even that little, you know, you didn't say don't do anything about it. You just said we'll get through it, and that's because we're all going to try to do things to help make life better for everyone. So, Pat, do you want to take it from there, and then
Yeah,
back to San Diego?
mic better now, I hope?
No, maybe switch to the other mic.
Okay, I'll do that.
I did hear you though.
All right. Yeah, it's very soft.
Let me
though.
get off and I'll switch to the other mic.
All right, and you don't have to get off.
Sorry.
You can just switch it, but I can speak a little. Let's see if you're there. What I wanted to say first is to say, Sandy, I'm so sorry that that happens to you, and it happened to those people in the restaurant, and that it continues to happen. And we know that there has been greater and greater escalation of this because people think they can get away with it. And what they're really getting away with is tearing people apart from each other. And I really want to reflect back a great big yes to what Gloria has been saying and what Dr. Rubel has been saying about the work that we need to do as humans to reconnect ourselves. And that's with each other, with respect and with dignity and with, you know, good treatment. Hey, Pat, can you mute for a second? Because you're making a little bit of noise, and it'll be easier when you're going to, okay. And so I think how that fits in with us and what we do. And I was raised Jewish, and at a time like this, even though I'm not particularly observant, at a time like this, it's when I say most clearly that I am Jewish and that I'm a Jewish person who wants justice for Palestinians, who wants the cycle of violence to be ended. And I know that the situation is not making my cousins who are in Israel, my friends who are in Israel, it's not making them safe. It's not making safe any of the Palestinian people that we spent time with in the West Bank a number of years ago when we were teaching songwriting for girls at a summer camp. So I was part of the action that took place at the opening of the legislature in Sacramento. And that opening session was shut down by primarily Jewish people, but Jewish people and allies who came together to say, not in our name, this war must end now. We need humanitarian aid to go in. We need food to go in. We need medicine to go in. And we need fuel and water. And Palestinians are our siblings too. And this is not a way forward that brings safety to anybody. And I have to say that being involved with that helped me so much, because before then, it's just been trauma, dealing with family members who don't agree with me and watching the news. And it was only trauma. But as soon as I get involved, as we have done for decades as activist musicians, when I get involved with the groups on the ground, and I'm grateful to the Davis Phoenix Coalition and to Sandy for her co-op coalition that is working for justice, getting involved is the thing that I recommend to people, because when you're with a group of people who care and who center justice and love and hope, as you mentioned, Dr. Rubel, there is a way forward. There is a way where we know that we're taking action to support. And we take action particularly through song. I wrote a song that has that phrase, break the cycle of violence, because for me, that's the message. Whatever you think about the horrors that are happening on both sides, it's not getting any of us anywhere, and it hasn't for centuries.
Thank you, Sandy.
Let me just, I switched off of that mic, so okay. You'll see. Our job as musicians and songwriters is to remind people of ways to remain hopeful. And that means that we have to find those ways in ourselves. And one of the ways that we find those is to talk to activists who've been through much more dire times than we've been through. As humans, we have made our way through horrendous, horrible things in our past, and we've always made it through. And it's true, not everybody makes it through. I get that, but but we get through somehow. We get through best when we're together, as Sandy said, and as both Sandys said. It's really important to be with one another, but the fuel that helps keep us growing through these incredibly uncertain and violent and difficult times is maintaining that sense of hope, maintaining that sense that we will get through. We will get through more strongly by being together, by standing up, by speaking up for one another in those moments, those crucial moments. And sometimes it's really, um, it's just like an individual conversation when you're hearing, oh, this person isn't prioritizing the same kinds of things that I think need to be prioritized in this situation, and just opening the field a little bit so people are a little bit more aware. Be challenge folks who are only speaking from the perspective of what's going on in Israel, which is horrible and incredibly difficult. But you have to bring in the voices of the Palestinians. You have to bring in the fact that the numbers of children that are being killed, and sometimes it's just those conversations that can get in the way of that. Oh, you can't say ceasefire because it leaves us out. We have to stay in conversation about this, and we have to hear about one another's trauma and understand one another's trauma, but we also have to solve this by being together, seeing one another, and moving forward with all of that information in the conversation.
Thank you both. That is very, very difficult to articulate, isn't it? It's been it's just decades of if you say one thing, you're anti-Semitic. If you say another thing, you're anti-Islamic. And it's like finding so many people now rising above that and saying, no, actually, it's everybody. I'm just trying to echo what you both just said, and I deeply appreciate it. Violence is hurting everybody. We recognize the pain and suffering of everybody. We don't want anybody to be suffering. Of course, we want anti-Semitism to end. And it's been here forever and way too long. And we recognize that and validate that. And also just to recognize the supposedly 70% of the over 24,000 people killed in Gaza, women and children. It's just so hard. I know we all feel it in our guts.
And I want to add to that. I really appreciate what she's saying. I mean, these are such difficult issues, but with all of that going on and with all the pain that goes around it, especially as we talk about innocent people, I'm thinking about all the other parts of the globe who have been also dealing with civil war and extreme violence and are at epidemic levels of things going on that are threatening their livelihood and their lives. And in the discourse of these discussions, we're forgetting that connection and that story too. All these stories need to be told. And the reason why is because when people see someone who phenotypically looks like them, or that they feel like they can connect to, we know from the research they're more likely to get involved and be empathetic. That is sad that that's the case, because we should get involved and care regardless of what a person looks like that's going through whatever they're going through. But we know from the research that there's an empathy that's increased when people see others like them who are suffering or going through war or whatever the situation may be. And I've been very concerned as we talk about um, obviously two very critical and important issues: what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on um, right now in what we call the Middle East, which are really, really tragic. But I've been concerned that what's going on in Latinx, what's going on in the Latinx world, what's going on in Africa, oh my gosh, we're talking about millions of people on the precipice of dying because of famine, civil war, and other things. What's going on in parts of the Asian diaspora, those conversations are being lost, and it's important for us to kind of address this as a collective, and not as a selective viewpoint, because we'll lose part of the team, which is sad to say again, that needs to be a part of this discourse and needs to be a part of impact and action. So I really appreciate what she's saying, because it's very difficult, it's also very scary, it's very sad. We're talking about life, we're talking about all kinds of things that are difficult, but we've got to expand to the whole collective and address it as a whole. Um, that's what I want to say to everyone who's listening today.
Thank you so much for that, Sandy. And yeah, you're just not just, but you are pointing out how that when it's just when the skin color's lighter, there's more focus and more attention than when the skin color's browner. When it comes to tragedies in our still in this mainstream media culture world. So thank you so much for reminding us to expand and making sure we are thinking more broadly.
And I care about all of it, because I see everyone as my family. So I care about all of it. I want to say that too. I care about all of it, because I know what happens to another group will eventually, if it's left unchecked, it'll come to our neighborhood too. So I care about all of it. But yes, I'm very concerned that we have become very, even though I understand there are unique aspects to both of those situations for sure, there are a lot of similarities to other parts of the globe that are not even a part of the discourse. So it's important for those reasons I said, because people can connect, they're more likely to act on behalf of others if they see people who look like them that are suffering too.
If I may, I just want to interject really quickly because Sandy, you brought a very good point. And by the way, I'm just enjoying all the depth of wisdom here from both Sandy's, Pat, and Gloria and Bahia. But one piece that I really want to emphasize is what we just discussed. And I do think that human beings tend to relate to those that are more similar to them, or if it hits closer to themselves, it finally resonates. And again, even though in a self-actualized process, we like to arrive to a place where we can relate to all of that family of humanity because we're all human beings. I think back to the positive matter more than the negative. Anytime our senses are awakened and we recognize this is not okay, and this has been happening to so many other people before us. I mean, I'm so amazed when today in events I go to, they speak about the land we stand on belong to Native Americans. When we start speaking of marginalized, oppressed people, and we start recognizing, we connect the dots, and we see that it is important to speak up, and you're united together, we're speaking up about the same thing, which is that it is important to stand up against injustice, as many amazing leaders before us have done, such as Martin Luther King Jr. So I just had to say that it's bringing us together, and I'm so proud of the words you said, Sandio, about not in our name, this aspect of I can belong to my community, and I can stand up against what is being done to another. And it's just so important to speak
Yes.
what we recognize as unjust.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for broadening the story, Sandy.
You're welcome.
We only see such a through most of our media, we only see a tiny slice of what's really going on in the world. And of course, you know, the powerful and the rich who have access to the, you know, the greatest um, you know, implements to get their message out by way of television and things like that, of course, have the ability to make us see the world in their frame.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of what's going on in the world is not that. You know, we are all, I think, very easily influenced, too easily influenced by the particular narrative that the powerful put out there. And one of the things that I've been working hard to do, both for my own sense of maintaining my sense of hope and strength through this time, through the grief and the trauma of this time, is to remember there are many more stories that are being told than we're being told about. You know, we don't see anything about Sudan. We don't see anything about, you know, all these places in the world, and we also, most importantly, don't see the vast amount of organizing that's happening in every place on the globe where there's conflict, in every place in the globe where there's need. There's a remarkable number of people that are doing really powerful work
Yes.
and lifting up their communities and helping people survive these very difficult times and creating, you know, new ways, new paths forward that don't advance the old narrative, that don't keep the same stereotypes in place. And I think that's a really crucial bit of information to, like I said, remind ourselves of, but also remind other people of. Reality becomes a bigger thing when we remember that.
Thank you, Pat. Let me just note, I can't believe it, but it looks like we have only 2 minutes left. I wanted to see if Gloria, I thought I saw you reaching for your mic a minute ago. If you wanted to add something right now. And we'll just do a wrap up round. It looks like we have 3.5 minutes left. So I'd love to just do one more circle for people, at least to get to say a closing thought.
I'm going to, you know, continue to pull on that thread that Pat brought forward, and I think it's a good one to end on, thinking about hope and thinking about the stories that are not told, and thinking about, like, you know, all of the people that are out there that are doing the same work that we're doing, and not seeing it. And I think that it is crucial for us to continue the work. Um, you know, the hope and joy, and reminding ourselves that we're part of beautiful humanity, not just the terrible humanity that's out there. It's really important for us to keep going that way.
Beautiful humanity. Thank you, Gloria. Why don't we go to Dr. Rubelt and then Sarah O, Pat, and then can we close with you, Sandy Holman?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Sarah?
I feel like I'm just supporting all that I'm hearing, because I validate every statement mentioned. I 100% agree. We are stronger together. Unity is the answer. Relating to one another's pain, empathy, compassion, love. It is not okay to look through our tunnel vision and only zoom in on one area or one aspect. I completely support what Sandy, you mentioned about the way to do this. Knowledge, educate yourself, explore. Don't just read that one side of the story. Look to seek knowledge on the other side. That's how we can see the big picture that Pat is talking about. It's just all of these stories collectively together speak of our multiple realities on this planet. And through those multiple realities, we can seek that bigger picture and find a solution together in unity.
Thank you. Sandy O?
I feel very heartened being here with this, all of you, and I feel grateful to you, Bahia, for bringing us together. And I think that is the way forward. Keep being together, keep finding the people who are working for justice, and I'll pass it on to Pat.
Thank you. Whoops, you're muted, Pat.
I think I've spoken enough, so I would pass it on to Sandy, to the other Sandy.
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to say, love has to be the guiding light. All of our individual points of light, again, coming together in that big supernova of explosion. We don't have to do it all. We just have to do something, whether it's small, medium, or large. Our young people are looking to us and waiting for us, and they need us to set the example. And I just don't doubt that all of us will dig deep and be prepared to do whatever it takes in love and action to make a difference, even if you are not 100%. I know myself, I've gone through some really tough challenges, and I had to kind of adapt what I was doing for a while. That's okay. Whatever you can do makes a difference. So I'm so honored, Bahia, that you continue to bring people together to discuss these things. And I'm so honored to have heard the various responses of everyone. It does mean a lot to our young people to hear these kinds of things. So thank you for having us as a guest.
Thank you all so much for everything you do, for the love, compassion, the guidance, the education. Couldn't do it without you. And I need to thank our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for helping spread the good news of hope and love, and that anything, as Sandy just said, we can do something. Doesn't have to be big. And thank you to our engineer and our producer. And may we all have enriching conversations in diversity this week. Thank you so much.
Have a lovely
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate